Thank you. Hari, Denise, Sakuze, Skyze, Masai, Matthew Summerskill, Executive Director of the Mobile Diabetes Clinic and Newly Community Nursing Services. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge any of the hereditary chiefs in the room and acknowledge the Silkazko for where we meet today. The Mobile Diabetes Clinic continues to serve hundreds of First Nations with chronic disease across half this province. We recognize that diabetes and linked conditions impact just not the individual, but the family, community, and nation. Diabetes continues to be one of the most prevalent conditions in First Nations communities, and therefore it must remain a priority. I am very proud of the leadership at Carrier Sekani that has stood firmly in support of this important work. Warner, Mabel, one of the mothers of our program, Travis, Sandra Tg, and the Northern Chiefs who have advocated for our continued growth and service for many years. So when we are at AGAs, we ask ourselves, how are we meeting our priorities? And prevention being one of the leading ones, whether that be of diabetes, catching it in the early stages, or whether that be of kidney disease, stroke, amputations, or any health crisis. These are all connected in health and in the life cycle of our work. And we measure these outcomes. We measure these outcomes by way of repeated encounters and some key indicators of health. For instance, 3-month blood sugar averages. We look at blood pressure. We look at kidney trends and so forth. And in reviewing some of our data, we know that the more positive trends in health, stabilizations of blood sugar, betterment of blood pressures, those often are associated with increased number of encounters with individual patients over the course of a year. So in knowing that, we can also not forget that trust earned from the people we serve is a key element of prevention. Healthy nations need people free of complications linked to kidney disease, blindness, lower leg amputations, and our work seeks to ultimately prevent those and support nation building and rebuilding, as does trust, which has helped us prevent countless hospitalizations and contributed to overall wellness. So pictured here is above Nurse Shauna in WFN earlier this year at one of our events. So if we look over the past year and over the past 2 years, our engagement with community has increased quite dramatically. And that's by no accident, particularly in Carrier Sekani communities, and thanks to some targeted funding that's been established to directly support Carrier Sekani communities. This is largely due to the strength of growing relationships and community members reaching out to our team in times of need, and particularly in the Burns Lake area. Every follow-up encounter is measured, whether that's a phone call, a text message, a home visit, and mental health support. They all add up, and we document all of it. And while we've had relatively the same level of staffing for a few years, our encounters are increasing as trust in our service has also increased. We approached 3,000 follow-up encounters within CSFS communities alone, growing at double the rate of areas such as in the Northwest and in the Northeast of our province, thanks again to some Carrier Sekani targeted funding. So again, if we look at our service area for the mobile clinic, we have 60 in the north and 10 in the interior, CSFS communities representing 10 of those member communities with the largest growth in service. If you look at another one of our priorities, that being culture is our foundation. Our clinic values holistic health. We've always operated differently in that we mean not accepting the status quo that has failed many First Nations people in the current system, by operating differently, by bringing services to community. Some of our most important work happens outside of clinical settings, and we can't forget that. So at community events, at health fairs, at sports tournaments, these are where many of the discussions informally happen and important interventions and relationships occur. We often reflect on events such as the Prince Rupert All-Native Basketball Tournament, where we see hundreds of our clients from the north out on the northwest coast every year, and similar type events in the Chilcotin area. Again, thinking about health outside of Western norms and more inclusive of local traditions and customs. When we talk about things like strengthening capacity, building upon what we can deliver with community and what we can deliver as a clinic is vital. Examples are, in addition to skilled nurses and 2 specialists, we now have our own Indigenous pharmacists working directly with clients. We've taken on social work students and continuously looked for ways which different fields of thought strengthen what we can offer to community. We also have looked to ways that health systems can work better communicating with each other. This is a massive, massive issue in health, and I'll talk to that in just a minute. And again, it's diversity within the team will always equal strength as different cultures and perspectives inform a more inclusive decision-making. Pictured here is our pharmacist doing a medication and diet review with one of our clients up north. When we talk about innovation, we are extremely proud of innovation. Innovation has resulted in early detection, improved access, and prevention of problems at early stages. That's what screening and access to healthcare is all about. Whether that be through instant lab access, identifying eye abnormalities early, or the ability to review health data in the now, whether someone lives in Fort Nelson, in Terrace, or Burns Lake, it's innovation that has helped reduce hardships on family and hospitalizations ultimately. Here is a picture of one of our nurses, I think up at the Wyoming Clinic, reviewing some eye photographs. Again, this is an example of looking at someone's blood glucose data from a Dexcom device that some of you may have seen on your family or friends or you individually. Data is communicated via Bluetooth, and someone can share that data with a nurse. So someone right now in Fort Nelson can share that with me, and I can have a look at my phone and see, hey, what do you think of this? Where is this going? These are examples of us embracing innovation to make decisions about health. Again, another example, we can review months and months of health data on glucose trends, that could be blood pressure, and that is often used as a stepping stone for those larger discussions. We can look at these trends and say, hey, what's going on in your life? Maybe there's some stress, maybe there's recent loss, maybe a medication's not working, hormonal changes, all of those things we can use technology and innovation as a tool to talk about. Our clients often joke that maybe we lay in bed at night with everyone's glucose trends on the roof, but we're not that crazy yet, nor do we want to engage in the stock market like that. Another thing that we're proud of is our innovative partners, in addition to Carrier Secani, that has embraced our service. First Nations Health Authority, Northern Health increasingly, the Nisga'a government, and the Chilcotin National Government. All of these represent different forms and meaningful partnerships that have had an influence on bettering health outcomes. A very new portfolio in the last week or so is community health nursing. And when we reflect on key priorities in the coming year, they would have to be as follows. We need to recruit more nurses, and this is amongst our largest priorities and not an easy one amidst worldwide shortages. Not easy at all. We need to not only recruit, but hire nurses that we know can deliver compassionate care that our communities deserve. And last but not least, we need to do a better job at sharing the story of nursing and the power of nursing with Indigenous youth. Masai, thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. So we'll take some questions from the floor or online if there's any. We have Mabel. Better watch out here, Matthew.
Well, Matthew knows me, doesn't have to watch him. Matthew worked in my department for many, many years. And one of the things that the health department did was transfer over money to Matthew's mobile diabetes program so that we had more mobile diabetes nursing time for the 10 communities that participated in the health transfer agreement. Because as you saw the statistics, many belong to Carrier-Sicani communities. And thanks to Emma Palmatier and Sandra TG and the Chiefs Health Committee, we have the mobile diabetes program. Before that, we had nothing, and I know that for a fact, 'cause my dad passed away from diabetes complications. He had to have his leg amputated. And I know in our area in Fraser Lake, we didn't have any supports that we do have now for diabetics. And I mentioned Sandra and Emma were the ones that pushed for the Chiefs Health Committee to have funding for mobile diabetes. And very little funding has changed from First Nations Health Authority to increase Matthew's mobile diabetes funding, other than the partnerships he's engaging in. And as a result, I think it was last year, there was a caucus where the chiefs in the north passed a resolution to increase funding for Matthew's program for the north. And Matthew can provide the details of what it is now to what you are asking for. So that motion went forward and was accepted, and to this day, First Nations Health Authority hasn't increased that funding. I know they're having a caucus next month, and I know we have chiefs here. And if you're in attendance to that caucus, I would appreciate it if you bring that issue back to the table and ensure that the chiefs, FNHA follows up with the chief's motion. Thank you. North Central Caucus in 2 weeks.
Thanks, Mabel. Somebody on the mic there.
Good morning. You mentioned the Indigenous pharmacy. Here in Burns Lake, we have 2 pharmacies that gives us a hard time. As First Nations people, we would love to have Indigenous pharmacy in the Lakes District.
Again, with the Indigenous pharmacist, anybody who has, firstly, diabetes, conditions related to diabetes, give our clinic a direct call, and we can set up a time. Thank you.
Thanks, Matthew. I just actually wanted the members to be aware, when Matthew goes up there and speaks, this is what we do. It seems so easy. And, Mabel had talked a little bit about the history of this program. It's really important when, Travis's department and the research department goes out to communities. And of course, now we're going to do that within child and family jurisdiction, because that's the direction that we take. And so this is a really good example. The diabetes telemobile clinic actually started as a research project. We had no funding, and so back in the day, and so Warner, right, said, okay, well, this is a good opportunity to use that research to actually deliver services to programs. And so from that, it grew and grew. And I just really wanted to commend all the ones previously that Matthew had mentioned, but to understand that it was the voice of the people that gave direction to Warner, to the health team, to all of us, to say that this was a priority. Through this program, we're able, to save, as Matthew said, oftentimes when I get to travel across the north, I just hear good things about the mobile diabetes. Like, I was able to save my leg, my sight, I was able to save my sight. This is how important this is. So there's another example of that research. What is it that the community members want or need in community? It's so important because that information is power. So for example, we have a new health program led by Emmy Merritt that is around health for, health, like to get people mobile and all of these things. That comes from a need that communities are saying. So when you get the opportunity, participate in those surveys, because then we have more leverage to get more funding. And I wanted to mention this right now because, I've been able to travel across the country in the last little while, and the diabetes program that Matthew runs is the best in Canada. It is, it's an exemplar not only for Canada, but for the rest of the world. So you could see how fortunate we are. And I know it's been through a lot of fighting for funding. I know all of the stuff that, the board and the leadership and executive, Travis, Warner, and Mabel back in the day fighting for this funding. But really, it's the direction comes from you. And so that CSFS, the innovation and the importance of that research. So when we go there, like, oh my God, do I have to fill out this survey? We need that so that we could get better programs for you, so that we could become the best in Canada like Matthew. So thank you, Matthew, so much.
All right, Masai, thank you. I think just as a follow-up to Mary there, people might say, well, you apply for we take our direction. When we go out to our 60 nations and communities across the north, they tell us to apply for more funding. They tell us that's nation-driven. And so when these proposals hit the ground to FNHA and whatnot, it's not necessarily us just wanting more funding because we want more funding. It's taking directives from community. And I think Mary touched on that very nicely.
Denise, Sakazit, Skyzit, Susie Sherry Tibbet. When you talk about diabetes, there's two things that come into my mind. One, a few years ago, my doctor said, oh, you're borderline to diabetic. And I was like, borderline? So I made the necessary changes, and they start putting me on this metformin. And I talked to my elder in Sycas, traditional medicine, and she said, get off it because it's dangerous. It's more detrimental to our people than it caused more effects. So I was like, oh, okay. And she gave me medicine, traditional medicine, and I took that traditional medicine. And I went back, and the doctor said, you're not diabetic. I said, I knew that. If anybody knew my late mother-in-law, Ruth Tibbets, she says, when doctors, they say stuff like, you got this, you got that, whatever. She says, bullshit. Sorry for my language. But she says, bullshit, I don't have nothing. Because it's awareness. We have to look at our traditional medicine because it's in our back door for a reason. So I want to make that clear. Another thing is prevention. As the emergency response coordinator for my band, Tilcasco, I had the great opportunity to look at readiness, prevention for fire, readiness for fire. And when I look at diabetes, how are we going to do prevention? What do we need to do right now? Not right now. Let's look at right now. What can we do for the younger generation to get our younger generation healthy and strong so they don't have to go through what our elders are going through right now? So those are my 2 points. And I don't know what the future holds. Like I might be the new CHR for our band, but you'll be hearing from me more because if people know me, I'm pretty vocal when it comes to protecting Silkas co-members. Masaicho.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ernie French Downey, Chief Proxy for Takla Nation. Matthew, I just want to say congratulations on the success of your program, and from hearing the history of the research, the innovation, and where it's headed. The comments I have here, I think, just in relation to one of our friends here who had mentioned our traditional medicines and how that's going to empower us to take back our health and to honor our health through our traditional systems. So the comments I have here, it's, so diabetes is a colonial issue. So I understand that our people were isolated to reserves back in the day, and we were isolated to utilize rations like flour, sugar, and all these other things that the government utilized as control. And this is what we consumed, and these are the foundations of what diabetes is. So when we look at our people, you know, traditionally, we didn't consume those items like pop and anything with sugar, right? It was all natural, like the berries and then when I hear my friends say BS to the conditions, it's like it's reversible. And what I hear is hunt eat, you lie. But you see, like this is who we are as Indigenous people. We innately have the ability to heal ourselves through our traditional medicines and through our traditional ways. And the prevention is education from how colonialism impacted our health and how we started to acquire diabetes within our families. And then the prevention measures, I think of when I hear you say Indigenous pharmacists, I don't know if you mean like our natural Indigenous practitioners who harvest plant medicines, or are you talking about a pharmacist who works at like Shoppers Drug Mart? That's my question. I would like to see a process of where you can innovate to incorporate traditional medicines to prescribe to our members. Must see, it's in my comments, thank you.
Very good points. And so the pharmacist, we say he's trained in Western ways. He has a pharmacy degree, but works in a non-standardized Western setting. But those points that you brought forward there, Ernie, are extremely important, and we have to work towards in being holistic. And it's not, as somebody who was trained in Western ways, it's not for me to disclude Indigenous ways and Indigenous medicine. We know they work in powerful and mysterious ways, and it's not up to any pharmacist or doctor to question those. So thank you, Masai.
Hadi, panada hunzu, kan chazinatlan, zin hunzu. I like what that young man before me said, like not Aboriginal, that's a white man language, Yan Kadane, we were the healthiest people on this earth before the government came, introducing us to sugar and all that. I think the government they always plan something 25 years ahead. So right now, in order for them to do away with the Nkatane people, they're planning right now. I guess they planned this back in the 1800s to do away with us. Oops, I went off track here. I was going to ask you, where do you get this Dexcom, I think? That's something that you have on your arm. And also, I was told that I was borderline diabetic. And I couldn't accept that. I told him, bullshit too, the doctor. 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with that. But I'm using mine over matter, and I'm not accepting it. So I've been doing so good so far, but I wanted to find out where this Dexcom, how I can get a hold of it, so I can keep my blood, I guess, readings under control.
Thank you. You can get a Dexcom, actually, if you talk to one of our nurses that are here today. They've got a booth in the back hallway there, and we'd be happy to have a discussion about getting you on a trial one, and then we can assess from there. The government has got certain requirements on, you have to be on insulin, et cetera, but we work with the individual to see how we can get you a Dexcom. Very handy.
But unfortunately, I don't want to accept any more medication into my body. It's all poison, like my sister Beverly said. Like,
We'll get you a couple trial Dexcoms, and that will help you to make better informed decisions about what your blood sugar is doing, and that's a good start.
okay, thank you.
You're very
Merci.
welcome, Masai.
Good morning, Dr. Hook. I always call him Dr. Hook. My name is Ronnie Alec. I'm a Frog Clan, now Sayat. I've been diabetic for 15 years, and I've been going up and down with these medication. And for the last 3 months ago, my doctor gave me a bunch of medicines that I was taking 18 a day. 18. And I always getting back into the emergency. And I was asking for second opinion. Why I have swollen feet, I have problems with my balance. And I asked him so many questions. That's what's going on? Why you giving me all these medicines? And then with my swollen feet, and then he gave me another 2 more for nighttime in the morning. So altogether 20. And then finally I realized I keep going in emergency again. That was 3 months ago. And I push all my medication away. I was really disappointed at him. And one night, and one evening that he came in, and he was keeps giving me shit for that at 7:30 in the evening. And then finally I told him, that's it. I'm not going to take any more medicines. And all that 8 weeks, just about 2.5 months, I stopped all the medications, and I feel a lot better. My ringing in the ears stopped, my feet swollen, everything was no more of that. That metformin, I quit that about 9 months ago. That thing gives you, it's strong for it's losing your balance when you walk around, doesn't give you enough strength to move around. That's what this metformin is. That 9 months ago, because my friend late Frank Michel used to take half, it was so strong that I used to take, there was 2 when I go out make woods and stuff. It just gave me the balance. I can't even walk straight with that thing. I noticed that. There's a lot of medicines out there that our people can use. People make Saskatchewan medicines that Lake Babine has, Emapalmetier, one with diabetic, one with cancer, and that mixed together, high blood pressure. And I've been taking that since I got off all the medicines. and it's controlling my high blood pressure. But lately, I had an accident, and when I fall back, and I hit my head on the rocks and had a heart attack. And now that's blood thinner is it's not safe for all of you guys. I don't know about this blood thinner. I went through that, and it just gave me a high blood pressure every time I take those twice a day. I've been experiencing a lot of things that I've been trying out and see how my body reacts. And it's tough with this. Now I slow down on this blood thinner because one time I grabbed the board and threw it, and I didn't realize there was a nail in there on my fingers. And I put my hands down, and all of a sudden my hands start getting cold, and I lift my hands up in here, my blood was just poured. That's how blood thinner was. It's dangerous for when you take those, any kind of fall or anything kind of happen to you, that's it, it's game over. I want you guys all to know about this blood thinner. And that one too. Either way, it's just like 50-50. You're playing your games with your life. But I want you guys to know, and with this diabetes thing, that mobile, it's good for our nation. And with the emergency up here at the hospital, our First Nation people, when we go up there, we wait for 3.5 hours, 4 hours to see a doctor. There's so many of them that goes up there if there's emergency, because there was an old man as a First Nation was up there. He waited 2.5 hours, and then later on, by the time they got him in there, it was too late. The old man passed away right in that emergency hospital. These things that have to be straightened out to all that people that's on board of director on about the health care. Masaicho, thank you.
Thank you, Ronnie. And again, one just comment about Ronnie is the importance of us knowing what our medications do in our body. Nobody should be taking medications that are blindly given to us by a doctor without proper explanation. Everybody's different. Every case of diabetes is different. Everybody responds to medication differently. So thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Masai.
Thank you, Matthew, and everybody else. So I'll cut off the discussion there. If you want to see Matthew, he's going to be kicking around all day and tomorrow. Oh, one more? Okay, I'll get one more, and then I understand the lunch is ready. It's hot, so we have to get to that. Speaking of blood sugar, Chief Bev.
Turned on. Is this turned on? Oh,
It's on. Yeah. Don't be afraid to touch it.
Oh, okay, sorry. So my question is, what is your vision for community nurses, and what is your plan to address the nursing shortage in communities? Because right now I believe we have contracted nurses, so I'm hoping there's a plan to get more community nurses in school, and an incentive to get our own people working, and they should be the nurses here. We shouldn't be paying high prices for contracted nurses. I mean, That's my question. What's the plan? Is there a vision? Thank you. And you can answer me.
Thank you, Bev. And those are very extremely important questions. We know that there's a worldwide shortage of nurses right now, and these nursing agencies are owning the market. What we need to do is come up with a plan of our own that competes with that, come up with a plan of our own to expose the good nurses that we do have working in northern communities at in late stages of high school, at post-secondary education, so that the exposure is increasing and that Carrier-Sicani becomes a better incentivized place to work. Because Chief Bev is right, we should not be relying on agency nurses. We've had to because of the need, the worldwide shortage, but there are better ways, and I have confidence that together we will have a fully staffed Carrier-Sicani nursing in the future. It may take a couple of years, but I have confidence that we will. Thank you.